The humans advanced through the dense jungle like a pack of hungry predators, stalking oblivious prey, their weapons ready and eyes glinting with deadly intent. Ymir watched the security feeds, his heart pounding, as dozens of heavily armed humans emerged from the 3 ships that had landed uninvited on Belari 4 and strode purposefully towards the remote scientific outpost. What did the humans want? Their body language and weapons made it clear this was no peaceful visit. Ymir shouted for the outpost's skeleton crew to evacuate immediately, while triggering the emergency alarms. "Get to the escape pods now!" he yelled over the blaring sirens. The outpost's lightly armed security forces grabbed their weapons, but Ymir knew they stood no chance against the oncoming human assault force. Belari V was meant to be a sanctuary, an isolated moon where Ymir and his team could study the exotic native life forms in peace, far from the politics and conflicts of the wider galaxy. And yet here were the humans, the most feared predators in the known universe, bearing down on them like a tidal wave of death and destruction. Ymir felt a chill run down his spine. It took a special brand of malice to attack a harmless science outpost. Ymir's eyes flicked between camera feeds, tracking the humans' relentless progress. They moved like a well-oiled machine, gunning down the few security forces that attempted to slow their advance. These humans were professionals, trained killers. What could they possibly want here? Time seemed to slow as one of the humans suddenly halted and gazed directly into a camera. Ymir felt the human's cold eyes boring into him, even through the screen. A cruel smile played across the man's scarred face. He mouthed a single terrifying word. "Run." And just like that, Ymir knew his life and the lives of everyone under his command were forfeit unless he could pull off a miracle. He had to find a way to save his team from these savage human predators, or die trying. Explosions rocked the outpost as Ymir sprinted through the twisting corridors, heart pounding. The humans had breached the compound's outer defenses. Ymir burst out of the outpost into the dense jungle, legs pumping furiously. "Mayday, mayday!" Ymir shouted into his wrist communicator as he ran. "This is Ymir Zarath of the Bellaria 4 Science Station. We are under attack by human forces. I repeat, we are under—" A massive hand clamped down on Ymir's shoulder, wrenching him around and cutting off his desperate plea mid-sentence. Ymir found himself face to face with a towering, heavily muscled human male. A latticework of vicious scars crisscrossed the man's chiseled features. Cold, predatory eyes bored into Ymir's own. "I'm disappointed, Jem'Hadar," the human said, his voice a low, mocking drawl. "I was hoping you'd put up more of a fight. The name's Adam Coleman. I lead this merry band of hunters." "Hunters?" Ymir sputtered incredulously. "Is that what you call yourselves? You attacked a peaceful science station? Why?" Adam threw back his head and laughed, a harsh, brutal sound. "You really don't get it, do you? This isn't about your little science project. We're here for the real prize, your colony, and all the Jem'Hadar in it. See, we've been watching you for months now, learning your routines, your defenses, your weaknesses. This outpost, just a warm-up. Your colony with its thousands of citizens, now that will be a hunt." Ymir's blood ran cold. These humans were insane, raving monsters, but there was a cruel cunning in Adam's eyes. He wasn't bluffing. "Tell you what," Adam said, his scarred lips twisting into a parody of a smile. "Let's play a game. You get a 24-hour head start. If you can evade me and my men in this jungle for a full day, I'll call off the attack on your colony. If we catch you, though, you'll personally deactivate your colony's defenses and watch as we do whatever we please. Deal?" Ymir's mind raced. He had no choice. Maybe he could find a way to warn the colony, to prepare them. Or maybe he could actually win this sick game. Either way, he had to try. Ymir gave a single, tight nod. Adam's grin widened. He leaned in close, his breath hot against Ymir's ear, and whispered a single word. "Run." Ymir ran, crashing through the undergrowth, Adam's mocking laughter echoing behind him. He had to put as much distance as possible between himself and these humans. Adam watched Ymir disappear into the jungle, then raised his wrist communicator to his lips. He spoke a single calm command. "Release the hounds." Ymir's heart pounded as he sprinted through the dense jungle, vines and branches whipping at his face. The baying of the human's monstrous hounds echoed behind him, spurring him to run faster. Ymir's mind raced as he tried to come up with a plan. He couldn't outrun these abominations forever. Then he remembered an ancient Jem'Hadar legend, a sacred grove deep in the jungle, protected by powerful spirits. The legend said no predator could enter without being struck down by the spirit's wrath. Ymir knew it was a long shot, but with no other options, he changed course and headed for the grove. Hours passed. Ymir's legs burned and his lungs screamed for air, but he pushed on, driven by desperation. Finally, he stumbled into a clearing and stopped short, amazed. The grove was real. Glowing sigils adorned the trees, and the air hummed with otherworldly energy. Ymir nearly collapsed with relief. Surely he had found sanctuary. Then Adam Coleman strolled into the grove, flanked by his pack of snarling hounds. Ymir stared in disbelief. The grove's protections seemed to have no effect on the humans. Adam chuckled at Ymir's confusion. Surprised? We learned to harness the power of these so-called spirits long ago. This ancient alien tech has made us the ultimate predators, Adam said, gesturing at the glowing sigils. I'll give you credit, though. Coming here was resourceful. But the hunt's not over yet. Adam snapped his fingers. The hounds closed in, jaws slavering, eyes glinting with hunger. Ymir backed away, but there was nowhere to run. He was trapped. Adam watched with a cruel smile as the hounds circled their prey. Ymir took a deep breath, knowing escape was impossible. If this was to be his final stand, he would face it with courage. He raised his fists, ready to go down fighting as the hounds tensed to pounce, and Adam looked on in anticipation. As the hounds closed in, jaws snapping, Ymir's eyes locked onto a strange pendant hanging from Adam's neck. It glowed with the same otherworldly energy as the sigils on the trees. In a flash of desperate realization, Ymir understood. The pendant was the key to controlling the ancient technology. Ymir lunged at Adam, hands grasping for the pendant. The two grappled savagely, fists and elbows flying as they traded brutal blows. The hounds circled, snarling, waiting for their master's command to rip Ymir to shreds. Exhausted from his long flight through the jungle, Ymir was no match for Adam's augmented strength. A vicious punch sent Ymir crashing to the ground. In an instant, Adam was on top of him, powerful hands clamped around Ymir's throat, squeezing the life from him. With his last ounce of strength, Ymir's fingers closed around the pendant. He tore it from Adam's neck and hurled it across the grove. The effect was instantaneous. The sigils on the trees blazed with blinding light. A shockwave of energy exploded outwards, washing over Adam and the hounds. Adam screamed, an agonized wail that echoed through the jungle as the energy tore through his body, stripping away his augmentations, leaving behind only a mortal man. The hounds howled as they too were caught in the energy wave. Their monstrous enhancements melted away, leaving only ordinary beasts, confused and cowering. Seizing his chance, Ymir wrenched free of Adam's weakened grasp. He scrambled across the grove and snatched up the pendant. As Ymir's fingers closed around the ancient artifact, he felt a rush of power. A holographic interface burst to life, hovering in the air, displaying a dizzying array of controls. With growing wonder, Ymir realized the truth. With this pendant, he now commanded the ancient technology that had made the humans so powerful. The hunters had just become the hunted. Ymir looked down at Adam, who stared up at him from the ground, eyes wide with dawning horror and impotent rage. And a cold smile spread across Ymir's face. He spoke a single word, his voice laced with venomous triumph. Run. Ymir sprinted through the dense jungle, the ancient pendant clutched tightly in his hand. His heart pounded as he raced back towards the Jem'Hadar colony, determined to use the artifact's power to defend his people against the human aggressors. As he burst out of the jungle and into the colony's clearing, Ymir skidded to a halt, his blood running cold. The colony lay in ruins before him, buildings reduced to rubble, streets strewn with the broken bodies of Jem'Hadar. Smoke curled from smouldering fires. The air rang with an eerie silence, broken only by the distant crackle of flames. "No," Ymir whispered, the word catching in his throat. "No, no, no." He staggered forward, picking his way through the debris, searching frantically for any signs of life. But everywhere he looked, he saw only death and destruction. With growing horror, Ymir realized the terrible truth. The attack on the science outpost had been a mere diversion, a ploy to draw him away from the colony and leave it defenseless against the main human assault force. A faint whimper drew Ymir's attention. He rushed towards the sound, clambering over a collapsed wall. There, huddled in the ruins of what had once been a home, he found a small group of survivors, mostly children and elderly, their faces etched with terror and grief. "What happened here?" Ymir demanded, dropping to his knees beside them. "How did the humans get past our defenses?" An elderly Jem'Hadar male, his face lined with age and sorrow, looked up at Ymir with haunted eyes. "They were already inside," he rasped. "They had infiltrated the colony days ago, using some kind of advanced stealth technology. They sabotaged our defenses from within. When the attack came, we were caught completely by surprise. We never stood a chance." Ymir reeled back as if struck. The humans had planned this massacre meticulously. They had exploited his absence, his desire to protect the science team, to launch their true attack, and because of his failure, his people had paid the ultimate price. Rage and grief surged through Ymir, twisting his features into a mask of anguish. He looked down at the pendant in his hand, feeling the ancient power thrumming within. With this, he could avenge his fallen kin. He could make the humans pay for their crimes. Ymir rose to his feet, his hand tightening around the pendant. He reached out with his mind, tapping into the artifact's energy. He could feel it coursing through him, a searing, brutal power eager to be unleashed. With a roar of fury, Ymir released the pendant's energy in a devastating pulse. It swept across the planet like an invisible tidal wave, seeking out every human life sign. When it found them, it struck with merciless precision, vaporizing the invaders in an instant, wiping them from existence as if they had never been. Ymir stood amidst the ruins, breathing hard, the pendant's glow fading. The humans were gone, their invasion thwarted. But as he looked around at the shattered remains of his home, the broken bodies of his people, he knew this was no victory. The pendant whispered to him, urging him to use its power again, to hunt down every human in the galaxy and eradicate their species once and for all. With this artifact, he could end the human threat forever. But at what cost? Ymir shook his head, a grim realization dawning. The pendant's power was too great, too seductive. It would not stop at the humans. It would demand more and more until it consumed everything, Jem'Hadar and human alike, in an endless cycle of slaughter and retribution. With a heavy heart, Ymir knelt amid the rubble. He placed the pendant on the ground and raised his foot over it. The artifact seemed to sense his intent, its glow intensifying, tendrils of energy coiling around his leg, trying to stay his hand. But Ymir's resolve was adamant. He brought his foot down hard, shattering the pendant into 1,000 glittering shards. The ancient power dissipated with a fading whine, and Ymir felt a weight lift from his soul. He knew that without the pendant, his people would be vulnerable to future human aggression. But he also knew that true peace could never be built on a foundation of slaughter and terror. Ymir rose to his feet, his gaze lifting to the star-strewn sky. The road ahead would be hard, perhaps impossible. The humans would return, and without the pendant's power, the Jem'Hadar would be hard-pressed to resist them. But Ymir knew that he had to try. For the sake of his fallen kin, for the sake of the survivors huddled in the ruins, he had to find another way. As he stood there amidst the ashes of his old life, Ymir made a silent vow. He would rebuild. He would lead his people down a different path, one of peace and understanding. And though that path was fraught with uncertainty, though it might claim his life and countless others, he knew it was the only way forward. The only way to break the cycle. If you finish this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.